Fusion Mobile, quality e-learning experience on the go.
You're welcome once again to Fusion Mobile e-learning platform. My name is Uchenna Jacob, and here today we are studying a topic in economics, which is looking at the petroleum industry and the Nigerian economy. Now, petroleum, from what we know, the petroleum industry is actually made up of products of crude oil. As they use, that means the industry that actually makes use of the crude oil in different products and different forms of production, and that is what we refer to as the oil industry. The oil industry in Nigeria actually started with the primary production, which has to do with what? Oil exploration. Oil exploration was formerly, in fact, the first place oil was actually discovered in Nigeria was in Oloibiri Delta State in 1956 by Shell PLC, or Shell Petroleum. But eventually, after the independence and after the Civil War, the autonomy of Shell was actually broken, and the oil exploration was now, there was a merger between British Petroleum and Shell Petroleum, which they now became what? The Shell BP. Now, in commercial quantities then, when it was discovered, oil was actually explored at 5,100 barrels per day, which eventually increased to 15,000 barrels per day in 1967, and it has been like that progressively. During the oil boom we experienced in 1975, introduced some other oil exploring firms like Ajib, Total, and so on and so Chevron, and so on and so forth, which has been around till date. Now, the Nigerian petroleum industry is actually not just all about what? All about exploration. Exploration has to do with taking the mineral resource, which is the crude oil, from the what? From the oil beds. Now, the oil industry has now been divided into basically what? The two sectors, what we call the upstream sector and the downstream sector of the oil industry. The upstream sector has to do with oil exploration, while the downstream sector has to do with oil marketing and distribution. Now, oil exploration and refining actually has to do with the upstream, now where we explore crude oil, take it to refineries, refine it. Then distribution and marketing is the downstream sector. There are so many organizations, and since the regulation of oil marketing in Nigeria, the oil distribution and marketing has become a wide range of activities, and has permitted a whole lot of players in it. Now, the upstream sector has what we call the offshore and onshore oil wells. The onshore and offshore oil wells depend on the distance from the shores of the country. Now, anything that is offshore, any offshore oil well income flows, or the royalties flow to the federal government, whereas the state government owns the onshore royalties that will be paid by industries. Now, going down from there, the petroleum has actually been something that has been a negative blessing in a way. It's a blessing, and at the same time it has become because of the way the blessing was channeled, it became somewhat derogative to Nigeria's development. Now, what do I mean? What I mean is this: the first thing here, before the discovery of oil in commercial quantities, Nigeria had quite a good and stable economy when it depended on agriculture. But on the discovery of crude oil in commercial quantities led to a diversion from the agricultural sector. So because of the oil boom that was discovered, the oil boom that was experienced in Nigeria, agriculture was now relegated to the background, and this has actually been the source of the economy backwardness, or the slow pace of economic development up to today. Now, that means that the economy, the advent of oil discovery and the development of oil industry in Nigeria has had positive contributions and also had negative contributions. Let's take a look at them. The first one, the positive effects in Nigeria, we have what? The major source that oil or petroleum, in the petroleum industry, is the major source of what? Of foreign exchange in Nigeria for now. As at 2 years ago, or okay, yes, thereabout, petroleum it contributes up to 80% of the country's GDP annually, and serves as the major source of export in Nigeria. Then geographic, it's the employment. It helps generate more employment opportunities. The other one is that it contributes to what? The government revenue. Just like I said, it generates a whole lot through royalties, through exchange, and it increases government revenue by serving as major source of export. Then here it serves as major source of energy in Nigeria, of course. When we run the cars, when we run the generating sets, when we run electricity, in fact, so many things we do, even to cooking, we use petroleum products. Now we have what they develop. It aids the development of other sectors or industries. Aiding development of other sectors of industry means that sectors or industries means that the petroleum sector has been able to provide certain drive. Of course, from provision of energy, other industries are able to thrive, and it has even provided some other kind of resources for other industries down to boost what? Economic growth. And now boosting economic growth is adding to the income, and being the more the petroleum is discovered, the higher the income and the higher the the GDP of the country over here. But also, like we mentioned, that the discovery of petroleum also has the negative developments. Now, on the negative effects of petroleum in Nigeria. Now, number one, it's what? It drove the nation to a mono economy. That means that because of the excess discovery of petroleum, the economy has now concentrated or diverted everything to the whole attention and interest to that. Then the next one is what? The neglect of the agricultural sector. Now, like we said before, the development of petroleum, or before the petroleum industry came in commercial quantities, then what happened was that the agriculture was the mainstay. But since the advent of this, we discovered that currently agriculture has become so low. Agricultural productivity and production has become very low, and now it has made it has become relegated to the background. Then the third one is what? Leading to inflation. There has been low productivity in other sectors. Then high rate of income is flowing in from what? From petroleum. And now when productivity in other products are not commensurate with the level of income that is flowing in, and of course that leads to survival of the fittest, which leads to what? Inflation. Then overdependence on oil products. Overdependence of oil products has made development quite slow. Then distribution in the sense of sense or distortion in this value sense. A whole lot of people now see the oil business or the oil industry as being superior to every other industry. That a whole lot of people nowadays see, especially agriculture or anything that is related to it, as not being worth the while. Now, so this value sense, the value sense in this case talks about how well people now accept the issues of what? Of other occupations as it relates to, as opposed to oil. Then talking about political instability. Political instability has become one of the, the way the merits of oil is shared has actually gone to create a whole lot of instability in the Nigerian polity. Now, what that means is that some people are now agitating for funds from the same crude oil because crude oil is discovered in their areas, while some are actually agitating, all these things and so on and so forth. Then the next one is what? Environmental pollution due to oil spillage. Oil spillages cause a whole lot of devastation in certain areas, all due to whenever there is oil leakage or oil spillage. And in some other areas where these oil wells are found, you see that agricultural and even wildlife, animal life is almost in extinction. Now, we move down to what? In the oil industry in Nigeria, as it developed, the government needed what? Needed a regulatory agency or a regulatory body that will look at and control or regulate activities or affairs in the oil sector. And that is what led to the establishment of NNPC in 1960. Now, NNPC, when it was established just for regulatory purposes. But as time went by, it has become much more active in the oil activities. It has become active in oil refining, oil exploration, and even now, oil marketing and distribution. Now, NNPC was modified with the establishment of the Nigerian National Oil Corporation in 1971. Now, this was now how so till date, NNPC is the regulatory body in the oil sector. It's number one, it is able to regulate the activities of agencies and companies that are involved, all the players in the public sector, in the oil sector. Number two is that NNPC is able to influence prices and stabilize petroleum product prices in the country. Number three is that it helps in stabilization of the supply of the products within the Nigerian country polity. Now, but internationally we look at the whole. There's a cartel called the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, which is OPEC for short, and it was established in September 1960 in a meeting from the 10 to 14 held by 5 countries: Iraq, Iran, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, and Venezuela, where these are exporting countries that needed, because they have a common market, there was need to reduce the conflict and to also harmonize the market or sectionalize the market the way there will be cooperation and peaceful coexistence. So because of that, they came together and established the OPEC. Now, as time went by, other countries that are exporters of crude oil and crude oil products were admitted. So we had Qatar was admitted in 1961, Indonesia and Libya was admitted in 1962, the United Arab Emirates, Ecuador, and Gabon 1963, 1973, pardon. Nigeria was admitted in 1971 and Algeria in 1969. Since then, there have been quite a number of them. But now, OPEC was established, like we said, for three main objectives. Number one is stabilization of international oil prices in the international market. Then, by regulating, of course, demand and supply. Then the other one is what? Is to coordinate and harmonize supply of crude oil and policies as it relates to what? Crude oil production and marketing. Then to ensure steady supply of crude oil and oil products in the market. But as they are trying to achieve the objectives, OPEC is faced with certain problems. And one of the problems they face is what? The declining loyalty of member nations. Certain member nations do not declare what their quota, what their oil production rate is all about, and this leads to what? Inadequate data, which does not help the organization to achieve its objective. Then challenge of non-OPEC oil producing countries. Now, when we look at that, we have some countries that, like Mexico produces oil but is not a member of OPEC. Now, when these people, they also produce for exportation, but that means they also partake in the what? In the international oil market, but they do not belong to the what? To the organization. So this will affect the what? The market area, or the market for what? For which the organization supplies or distributes to its members. And political disagreements among leadership of member countries. Then it becomes a problem when one country, that is power tussle in the leadership of the organization, not within the member countries, but within the organization, who leads and who makes what? Deciding decisions. Then rivalry for the leadership in the organization, and world economic depression. This is what has led to the general fall in oil prices, and conversely led to a drop in the funds of OPEC. Now, these are problems it is facing in being able to achieve its goals and objectives. Now, these are the whole thing, or a lowdown of the developments in the Nigerian oil sector, the divisions of the Nigerian oil sector, which we said it is what? Into the upstream and downstream. Then regulatory procedures in the Nigerian oil sector, both locally and internationally. Now that brings us to the end of the study session on petroleum and the economy. You'll be having the questions coming up on your screen, and when you have issues, you come back to the video and I'm sure you have answers to them.